Welcome back to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, is my fellow co-host, somebody who loves a good plot twist, Jason Johnson.
All I have to say is, welcome back, Harvey.
Surprise! Which we'll get into towards the end here, but yeah, that was
Yeah.
a welcome surprise.
Yeah, and it was a surprise, but we'll get there.
Yep. Yep, so that means this time around, we're talking about Season 4, Episode 19, almost done. We're So Screwed, Part 1, Fetal Attraction. Yes, that's right. Part 1. Our final multi-part story of the series. And I mean the series proper, not counting the Peacekeeper Wars miniseries, which will come after the show was canceled, which was a two-parter, effectively. So, but anyway, this is the final multi-part of the series. And we'll see if, as always, if they deliver on the multi-parters or not, which we'll get into here.
Unfortunately, we're not going to cut ourselves short, but the end is nigh on Farscape.
Yeah, it's a coming really quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Worry not, though. We're not going anywhere. We'll figure something out.
Yep. There's plenty more things to talk about, hopefully.
Yeah. See the however long pre-show that we had before this, as we just talked about nothing for no reason.
Yeah.
So,
for like 10 minutes, for like 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. Which would make a boring podcast if you listen to. But anyway, it was fun for us, but
isn't that what a podcast is? Just an excuse to talk about stuff anyway. So
yeah, it's just people talking for no reason about stuff that some people care about, some people don't. Yeah. And yeah, our little constant PSA here. If you like what we do, give us a like or a review or spread the word. We would appreciate it.
please and thank you.
All right, so I'm up for this one. But let's jump on into the final multi-parter of the series. Season 4, Episode 19, We're So Screwed, Part 1, Fetal Attraction. We open with Moya that's docking at a Scarran border station, where we see 3 other vehicles nearby, one being their own transport. Apparently, Sikozu had gone on ahead, blending in with the other Kalish aboard, as we'll find out later. John is masquerading as a peacekeeper, and Scorpius comes in and tells them that all vessels en route to Katratsi must stop for inspection and quarantine here at the station, which takes 5 solar days. If you don't have any proper security code beacons, you'll be instantly destroyed. Janet tells John that they'll get Aeryn back. Inspection party shows up, and Scorpius tells pilot to let them dock. And Scorpius is masquerading as Captain Wentrask, a Scarran spy, which at this point is not totally incorrect, but we'll get to that. We meet Dr. Treso Talnell, who is the chief medical officer on board the station. They're checking for contraband and contaminants when he sees John and asks, is he a peacekeeper? And Scorpius says, how remarkably perceptive of you. He asks how he has the peacekeeper on board, and tells Scorpius he will have to answer or be refused entry into Scarran space. Scorpius tells him that the peacekeeper is a spy for the Scarrans, and also they have a Nabari and a Hynerian on board who are also spies, and assures him that the hierarchy would not look too kindly on a Kalish who obstructs the delivery. John asks about food on the station, and is told of the station commons, and he's about to leave. Treso tells him that weapons are not permitted on the station, and the DRD Sentinels are programmed to shoot and kill anybody armed. So John puts his gun away.
Smart move.
Yeah, as we'll find out later.
Yeah, that was literally Chekhov's gun.
Yeah. On the station, Sikozu is seen with a young Kalish male named Karon, and Shin and Rygel watch on. Rygel says that they were smart to send Sikozu ahead, since the Kalish run things around here. But Scorpius interjects and says that they are a conquered species and serve the Scarrans to survive. Sikozu tells Karon that she envies his stable position running the station compared to her life roaming tormented space. He says it's boring, though, and goes back to work, agreeing to be here later. Sikozu meets John at the refreshment machine, where he asks if she has any information at all. And as it turns out, yes, she does. Aeryn is here on a Scarran freighter that is docked. But unfortunately, that freighter has finished its quarantine and is leaving in half an hour.
That's cutting it close.
Yeah, good timing. We cut to the nurse Rena from last episode, giving Aeryn some drugs to keep her docile, and says that she could make things so much easier for Aeryn if only she just trusts her. Back on the station, John informs Scorpius and Rygel and Shanna that they have half an Aeryn and suggests storming the station. Yeah, sure. Scorpius sees a slight flaw in that since they'd be killed by the station's sentinels if they carried weapons. See previous announcement. John says that Dargo and Noranti are hanging back in Lola, but Scorpius says that should Dargo's ship attack the station, a fleet of warships would be instantly dispatched after them. But everybody agrees that they have to act now, as they have a far greater chance of rescuing Aeryn here than Ekatratzi. But half an Aeryn is not enough time to even formulate a plan, let alone carry it out. They have to stop the freighter from leaving, and Rygel says he has a plan. Uh-oh. He asks for all the food and tells them to get even more food. John says that's not really the time for him to be thinking about food, but Rygel just stuffs his face with everything in sight. Then Janik and his chariot escorts enter, and Scorpius greets him. Janik sends his chariot away, and Scorpius introduces himself. He says he's on a secret mission and gives a Scarran proof code. Janik recognizes it from the Ministry of Dissimulation and says Scorpius had little to fear from him. He says he is Janik in command of our freighter. You've got your mission, and I've got mine, he says. As it should be, Scorpius says, and walks away. The chariot returns, commenting about Scorpius being a half-breed. Janik's not concerned and tells the chariot to get their ship ready to leave. On said ship, Aeryn is hallucinating about John, telling her she's doing great, and the nurse asks her why she's making it difficult for herself. There's no point in fighting, she assures Aeryn. Then the nurse leaves and enters the commons, and John tells Shanna and Sikozu that Sikozu thinks she's the nurse from the freighter. Rygel says he'll be able to fool her, and promptly throws up a river of lime green puke everywhere as a small crowd looks on in disgust. And us, the viewing audience, too. Yeah. That was some projectile. That was gross. Trezo arrives on the scene quickly, asking Rygel if he's had this issue before. Rygel says, yeah, once he had a touch of termofolica. That was the cause. That's highly contagious, exclaims Trezo. Rygel assures him that he was told it was dormant, but nevertheless, Trezo orders a lockdown of the station until further notice, ordering all vessels to be anchored to the docking ports. Janik promptly protests that they can't be kept here, but Trezo says that they must, according to the quarantine policy of his hierarchy. Janik asks if he has evidence that this Hynerian poses a risk. He doesn't, but he must err on the side of caution. He's not that familiar with Hynerian dermofolica. They're having details transmitted from sim staff. Cabrome has also sent out a request for all doctors or healers in the area with any knowledge of the disease. He says it's not procedure, but under the circumstances, a very good idea. He turns to Sikozu and covertly thanks her for suggesting it. Meanwhile, Shanna's chatting to a male when the healer arrives. Trezo introduces himself, as does the healer, our good old pal Noranti, who says she's an alleviator and healer. She also introduces Dargo, her personal assistant. As they go forward, Trezo questions her about having a Luxon for an assistant, but she says they make fine bodyguards, good pilots, and superlative lovers. Thanks for that image.
Yeah, I didn't need that one.
Trezo gets some data from SimStaff, and after looking it over, he tells Noranti they brought her here for nothing. It's not dermofolica at all. It's been orange, and he's not exhibiting signs of skin sloughing. She says that that's too soon to tell. The virus causing the disease is very hard to detect. He says they've seen no other symptoms, so unless they show within an Aeryn, he can lift the lockdown. Noranti goes to examine Rygel and asks if he generally had dermofolica. Rygel says yes he did, and it very nearly killed him. She then feeds him some more herbs.
I'm sure that's all innocent.
Yeah. Why don't you feed him some more stuff? But anyway. She returns to Dargo in the commons, who's watching Shanna with the mail. She tells him there's no news yet, and Dargo goes over to Shanna. Hey, Nabari girl, how about I buy you a drink? He asks. The male says he was here first, and Dargo just bluntly says, and your point? Feeling outmatched, the male gets up and leaves. And Shanna and Dargo touch heads lovingly, and he tells her that Rygel's scam seems to be working. They knew that because one of the transmissions they heard had Sikozu's voice on it, so they played along. Trezo tells Noranti that her caution seemed justified. Rygel's skin is now sloughing, so the lockdown will remain in effect. We have a little gathering of Scorpius and his crew, and Janik, Noranti, and Trezo to discuss the disease. Scorpius asks how contagious is it. She tells him that it can affect non-Hynerians, and those it does kills without warning. John says, for all that, he's going to lock himself in an airlock. But Noranti says it's too late for that. The virus is so pervasive that this station and any attached vessels have already been exposed. She'll try to concoct a cure, but her ship is understocked. She asks if anybody has any supplies, but Tennant quickly says no one's allowed on his vessel. Scorpius offers his Leviathan for her use and tells Janet and John to escort her there. As they board Moya, John tells Noranti that she did a good job scamming them. So, well, I couldn't scan Treso, she says. Well, you did. He believes Rygel's sick. Noranti says, yeah, that's because she made him sick. She reactivated the Dermophaga in his system. She hopes she can deactivate it, or he's dead. Oops.
Yeah. Probably should discuss that one first.
Yeah. Before you pull an audible, Noranti tells John that Rygel has plenty of time if she's not disturbed, and she's sure she can make a cure. John asks, is this really contagious? And she says, I'll fix it. I got it. John's getting furious that she infected him with a deadly disease, but Noranti counters only expose them, not affected them. Nabari and Scarrans are immune, but Sebastians and Kalish aren't. Gianna takes her to task because she could kill Aeryn before they even save her, but Noranti just says, don't worry about it. She'll fix it. She turns to John and tells him the simple truth. If she hadn't reactivated the disease, lockdown would have been lifted, and Aeryn would be on her way to Kratzi. Meanwhile, Janek tells Treso that he is the patient he must protect. But Treso says the passenger has already been exposed. Everybody has. Janek tells him that the facility on Kratzi is more likely to have a cure, but he asks if he would expose those people too. But Janek points out that Scarrans are immune to the disease. Treso says,
convenient.
Yeah, nice. Treso, however, says the Kalish aren't, and he will not be responsible for spreading a virus that could prove catastrophic to his people. Carone tells them both that the healer has requested they allow her to move the patient to the Leviathan, since it's easier to take the tissue samples that way. Janek questions removing them from the isolation, but Treso says that given the virus's pervasiveness, isolation is pointless, and allows it. On Moya, Rygel screams at Noranti, calling her a madwoman. Probably true. She tells him he can shout at her all he wants, and continues to work on the cure. Scorpius tells John that Noranti's is the best possible course, as it's bought them time. John says, yeah, but someone's got to get on that freighter, and Sakosu's schematics won't get Aeryn's location, her condition, or how many guards there are. So he's going in. So John's plan is he enters the commons and spots the nurse. He tells her that he can't remember the last time he saw a Sebastian woman. He tells her it's been a long time without companionship. He doesn't do aliens. Well, I'll do peacekeepers, she says. He puts something up to his mouth, and she asks what it is. And he says it's the cure for Sebastians for Dermophaga. He says she's a medical worker, and he can let her analyze it. He gets up to leave, but she asks where he got it. Sorry, I'll kiss and tell, John says. But assures her that she won't get away anywhere else. She says that the Dermophaga rarely affects Sebastians, but he says when it does, though, they die instantly. He doesn't like those odds. All he wants is to share. So she takes him on board the freighter and sets up her equipment. John sees the spare bunks. She tells him cure now, fun later, and takes the cure for analysis. She asks if there's only enough for 2 of them. And he says, why? She says there's another Sebastian who needs treatment. Aeryn is in the same room.
Aw.
Hey. John probably knocks out the nurse, of course, and tries to wake up Aeryn. She pushes him away as he tries to unbind her, thinking it's a hallucination. Jared comes up behind them, telling him to leave her alone. John says the Scarran hierarchy would not want the package delivered damaged. And as John attempts to knock him out, the turret instead knocks him out. Oops. Now we cut to the nurse and the Chariot in question, present in a room where Janek is heat probing John. John says that the cure was a fake. He was looking for a Sebastian woman. The nurse says John attacked her and attempted to release one of the patients. No offense, but she's sexier than you are, John says, which is true. Janek asks what he had done if he was successful. Taking her back to my ship, frelled her, and made babies.
Also true.
Also true. Yeah. Scorpius walks in asking what Janek is doing with his peacekeeper. He tells him the peacekeeper was aboard his ship, attempting to recreate. Is this true? Scorpius asks. John says, yeah, more or less. Scorpius tells Janek authoritatively that he will deal with John, and Janek and his people leave. Scorpius asks John how he lied to Janek's heat probe, asking if it was Katoya's training. Remember him? Nah, I told him the truth, just not the whole truth, John says. John tells him that Aeryn is there, and Scorpius says that Sokozu is gathering information that will help them put together a rescue plan. We will free Officer soon, he says. Meanwhile, Noranti has fed Rygel an antidote that will boost his Hynerian antibodies and clear him of the Dermophilia. Unfortunately, it won't cure anybody else. No one's contracted it yet, and they may not, but there's always a chance. Rygel appears to pass out, and she checks on him, afraid she's just killed him instead.
Some cure.
Yeah. We cured the disease. Unfortunately, the patient died. Yeah.
Yep.
Tiana spots her male friend head down on the table in the commons. She asks if he's okay, and Tracer realizes they may have another victim and takes Karim with him. Tiana calls for the healer. On Moya, Tracer tells Noranti that the Kalish fell victim to the Dermophilia, and Captain Janik has requested her presence aboard this vessel. He tells them she can't go and must find the remedy. He may come to Moya, but Tracer insists, nope, she's going to him. Scorpius tells Janik that the healer needs more resources that are available to her, asking if he has anything on his vessel that can help. He tells Janik to realize they have a common problem, but when Tracer signals Janik, he tells Scorpius he will solve his own problem. On Moya, Sokozu tells Chiana, Dargo, and Rygel on command that the freighter is tied to the station's power grid. She can force a power surge from the station that will knock out the lights and Scarran DRTs. She adds that will only last about 30 microns until overrides activate. She says she thinks she's worked out how to bypass docking locks so Moya can get away. Chiana asks what she's been doing with Karum all this time, but John just says, what about the window stickers this drone's supposed to give out? Targo says they'll need those security beacons. When they rescue Aeryn, we'll starburst away from Scarran space, Sokozu says. What if we starburst deeper into Scarran space? Dargo asks. John mentions that the freighter could take off without Aeryn, and if the freighter escapes, then we abandon all hope, Sokozu says. We abandon all hope of leading long and prosperous lives, and we follow the freighter, John says. Noranti is brought to the freighter, where Tracer tells her she will find a cure. Janet tells the nurse to assist them, but on checking on her, she's also dead from Dermophilia. Aeryn, however, appears unaffected. She thinks she can cure her if she's given time. Janet tells Noranti that the female is pregnant and her fetus must be saved. Is there a suitable replacement for transplant, she asks. Noranti objects, saying that even if there were, it wouldn't do any good. All females are equally at risk. Well, what about that Dabari girl, Tracer asks, who's immune? Janik orders his chairs to take a transport pod aboard Moya from the outside and get Chiana. And speaking of which, Chiana there, walking along Moya's corridors, finds some chariots in a corridor, and despite her best attempts to fight back and escape, she gets overpowered. And Pilot's Den, Sokozu asks why he just let them take Chiana by force. He says he was unaware until it was too late. Scorpius tells her that recriminations can wait. Aeryn is struggling, saying they can't do this to her. Noranti says that they won't find Chiana, but ta-da, she's brought in immediately and struggling.
Yeah, never say that out loud.
Yeah. Never say the secret part of the plan out loud. Noranti tells Janik that the patient is too weak because she was drugged and she may die, but all he cares about is the survival of the fetus. So he orders them to proceed. Noranti goes to give her something to ease her pain, but Trezo sends her to Chiana instead. Trezo injects Chiana, commenting that she is strong, will make an excellent host. Janik tells Trezo that if he does not, they will die. No pressure. Karon calms Janik, telling him that Captain Wentrask demands an urgent word. Janik meets with Scorpius, who tells him he requires his cooperation. I know that your prisoner is Peacekeeper Aeryn soon, and that you are taking her to Katratzi for Minister Akna. I also know that if my mission fails, your mission becomes irrelevant, as do you. Continue, Janik tells him. Sokozu enters Station Command, and Karom is not there. As she touches the controls, though, Karom appears, aiming a gun at her. He tells her that somebody has been downloading the station codes and schematics, and it must be her. He tells him that there's 2, maybe 3 females being held against their will on the Scarran freighter. They pose that Scarran is no threat and their imprisonment is unjust. He believes her, but he won't help her. I'll lock her up instead, he says. Mandargo shows up and tongues him unconscious. He tells Sokozu to do what she said she was going to do. Meanwhile, Noranti tells Treso that the patient's body is overstressed, so the fetus will be debilitated. He thinks they should let her regain her strength. Treso tells her they don't have the time. Scorpius tells Janik that he doesn't realize that Akna's only interest in her prisoner is as a means to the possible information that John Crichton possesses. But his peacekeeper defector can give him John Crichton himself. Now, which mission do you think is more vital? Scorpius asks. Sokozu unlocks the docking ports on Moya, Dargo's ship, and the transport pod, and Dargo finds the security beacons. Noranti argues with Treso, the lights go out, and John runs off Moya. Showtime, he says. We cut to John shooting some turrets and reaches the freighter. Traso threatens to kill Aeryn, but Noranti tells him that if she dies, Jennick will burn him anyway, so shoot. John tells him that the Kalish are supposed to be smart and asks who he thinks he'll believe. John shoots Traso, but not killing him because he says his body count is already too high. John goes to Aeryn. After a lingering look at her, they release her. Jennick tells his chair to check the ship, and Scorpius says he must check his. Jennick tells him, nope, stay here. Scorpius tells Dargo that she's almost done, but wants to jam the docking ports so the freighter won't be able to break free and follow them. Now, with Dargo's back turned, she burns a panel with what looks like a Scarran heat probe. Dargo asks how she did that, and she says she cross-coupled the emergency bypass circuits. Jared, meanwhile, is blocking John and the crew's escape. John tells him that security is tight for visitors, so they shouldn't be carrying weapons. The lights come on. The sentinels reactivate and shoot the Jared because he's holding a gun. Foreshadowing. Dargo and Sokozu come up behind him, and Noranti gets Dargo to carry Gianna. Janet calls for his Jared, but gets no answer. He reaches for Scorpius, and they struggle with each other. The crew get back to Moya, but Scorpius is overpowered by Jennick, who gives him a heat probe. Moya, Lola, and the transport pod are released, and pilot tells Sokozu that Scorpius has not responded to the comms. Sokozu says he might have been captured or killed, but nobody's even interested at all. Rescues Scorpius and prepares to leave. Sokozu objects strongly, and Shanna knocks her out instead. John takes Aeryn to her quarters, telling her it's all right. She's here. Is this real? She asks. He says, yes, it's real. She's on Moya, and she's safe. But what about the baby? He tells her the baby is fine. Everything will be okay. She asks him to stay and touches his face. Noranti is with Rygel, who says she nearly killed him. No, I didn't, she replies. But I did kill my others. By my actions, I have taken innocent lives, she says. Welcome to Moya, Rygel says. In my time as Dominar, some of my actions resulted in deaths of them deserving. Even when the cause is just, it's a hard thing to accept. I must seek forgiveness from the Divine Eternal, she says. Rygel says, yeah, he can't help her there, but he extends her his forgiveness. John is sleeping next to Aeryn, who's stroking his hair, when he suddenly jumps up, screaming no. And with organ music in the background, we see a black and white scene and candles burning around a single coffin. The coffin opens. It's Harvey!
Yay!
Doing his best impersonation of Nosferatu, pointing long nails and all. You're not dead, John says. Harvey says that he's the undead. Haha, in a spooky voice. That's not funny. That son of a bitch said he took you out of my head, John says. Scorpius upgraded me to Harvey 2.0, and one of my many improvements, utter loyalty to Scorpius. That's not...
With 2.0, he should have deleted some of the vowels from the name, right?
Yeah, right.
Isn't that how they do it?
Yep. That's not an improvement, John replies. Oh, yes, it is. His course is the correct way. Eliminate the Scarran threat. John says he does not give a damn about the Scarrans and Scorpius' agenda. You must go back for him, Harvey says. John tells him to go back to sleep before he drives a stake through his heart and shuts the coffin lid. As John walks away, muffled from within the coffin, Harvey reverts to his normal voice and says something that stops John cold. He knows everything you know, John. John walks back, lifts the lid, and asks him to repeat it twice. And Harvey says the same thing, twice. Meaning what? John asks. Well, another new feature. Scorpius can hear me. I've been sharing the contents of your head with him. Memories, thoughts, dreams, wormhole technology. No, you're not. You're lying, John says. And eventually, they'll torture the information out of him, Harvey says. And everything they ever wanted to know about wormholes will be theirs, courtesy of John Crichton. John slams the coffin lid down on him, and he's mumbling, no, 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 in panic. And he gets awoken by Aeryn. Aeryn tells John it'll be all right, but John's worried expression says otherwise. To be continued. A little bit of trivia about this episode. As you haven't figured out by now, Harvey makes his return to this episode, having not appeared as his real self since Promises, which was way back in episode 5 of this season.
So not that far back, but far enough.
Seems like a long time. It's only been 14 episodes. An alternative title of this episode, suggested by Ricky Manning, was Fetus, Don't Fail Me Now. Deborah Peart, post-production supervisor, came up with the idea to treat Harvey's footage with a scratchy black and white film look. The title We're So Screwed was referencing the fight scene between Crichton and Braca back in Look in the Princess, Part 2, I Do, I Think, which was way back in Season 2, Episode 12.
Speaking of the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, a big callback. And Rygel's vomit was created with red, pink, and blue dyed gelatin. Fiona Gentle, Rygel's puppeteer, recalls that everybody was sliding around the set trying to get out of the way. And I would be too. All right, so that I guess what we typically expect from a Farscape multi-part story. Lots of plot, moving, lots of action, and of course some surprises that we'll talk about here in a second. But overall, what do you think, Jason?
Yeah, so as usual, I love this one. Definitely had some ups and downs, but I think this far into the series, we're kind of comfortable with the way that the series kind of moves. But I'm definitely ready for the next one. We'll dive into some of the details, but how about you?
Yeah, I've had a couple of things to question, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, overall, I loved it. We've always said that they've done multi-part stories exceptionally well, and this one was no different so far. It's only the first part of 2 or 3, right? So, but so far, lots of action, lots of humor, and crew drama, of course. You know, that's what we know makes Farscape so great. And we get our little share of plot twists and double crosses, which is also what makes Farscape so great.
Yeah, which is interesting, and I'll kind of set this up, and then we'll touch on it when we get to the very end when we make our predictions. But for next episode, I do feel like just right off the bat, we got a lot farther than I expected us to, right? I mean, I figured we'd have the multi-parter getting Aeryn back, not literally rescue her in episode 1. So, all right,
Yeah, because
just to kind of set up
they have
where we go.
they have that great plot twist at the end where it's like, oh, you thought you were done. So,
Which we knew we couldn't be, but yeah, it was like, well, that was quick
mhm.
for this crew.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hey, the plan worked. Oh, no, it didn't.
That seems on par.
Yeah, so that's normal. Yeah. But yeah, we got lots to get to. But first, yeah, it looks like in this episode, Noranti's got a lot to do. So finally, after like 3/4 of the season, they start to get good writing for her, which, I know you've commented before that, she's your most favorite character of the whole series. So that must make you very happy.
Yeah, definitely my favorite. No, no, no. But I have to admit, I'll be honest here. I didn't mind her in this episode. It's almost like they were saving up all of her interesting parts for this one episode where she actually makes sense. Her actions have clear intentions, and she makes a real call that affects the team and has to live with the consequences. She's not just running around blowing smoke in people's faces. She's actually doing something, and which, I mean, yeah, that's doing something, but you know what I mean, like contributing as part of the crew. And Rygel even actually says it at the end of the episode, welcome to Moya. And it's like, finally she's doing something like I would want her to do. So
Yeah, I mean, just not this action, like comic relief or just being goofy weird for the sake of being goofy weird. Right? She actually does important things. Because yeah, I mean,
yeah,
her storylines I thought was pretty good, right? I mean, she had to improvise when the doctor's like, "No, he's fine." So she had to improvise, which maybe went a little too wrong and actually, reactivated his dermafolica, Rygel, which again, almost killed him, and of course it's contagious, which led to at least one Kalish on the station being killed, and the sedation nurse from last episode, which of course is in violation of her medical beliefs, right? Do no harm. I guess it's the same as Earth as it is elsewhere, right? For doctors.
it kind of was with Zan, right? That was always
Hmm.
a plot point.
Yeah, and she's trying to stall Aeryn's operation with the medical officer, and then like you said, the nice scene at the end with her and Rygel, where he says, at least he forgives her, but she's got all this guilt now. So whether that will progress in the rest of the story here, for the rest of the season, I don't know, but we'll see. But she's got some consequences to deal with now.
Yeah, either way, I just hope they keep this version and not like I said, go back to the crazy blow smoke witch lady approach. Like, this is an interesting character that I hope they keep, and not just make me go next time.
Right. Oh, there she goes again.
Yeah, we're back to what was it when she first showed up? John's like, "Why are you even here?" That's
Yeah,
kind of
like
where we
who are
were.
you? Like, yeah, like why are you still here?
Everybody else left.
And you are right. So yeah, the plots kind of intermingle with the characters here. So I guess we're gonna just kind of jump around with the characters. So let's get on to the next kind of surprising character we haven't seen much of ish. Sakozu. She's got lots to do here. She got there early because the Kalish run the station that we learned about. Yeah, she helped get the station and ship plans. She's like worked the comms. She helped come up with the plan to rescue Aeryn. But I guess the biggest thing was in the next to last scene before she gets knocked out by Gianna. She puts her hand over the station controls and what looks like what we've seen, even this episode, a Scarran heat probe coming out of her hands to fry the console. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, what do we think about that? Yeah, she's not all that she seems. Granted, we knew that going as the season progressed here, but at least we've learned more about her species, which we didn't know about before. The Kalish are conquered servants of the Scarrans. So might have been nice for someone to mention that earlier in the season. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I kind of bounced around a lot with her and the knowledge drops we got in this episode, right? Because you know, at first I'm like, do we actually have a reason for her cozying up with Scorpius? Was she? At first I'm like, was she planted by Scorpius, and she's been with him all along, or now is she playing him too, and she's a Scarran spy? I mean, there's a lots of places that they can go with this one as we kind of hit the countdown to the end. Um, but they definitely showed us the heat ability on purpose, which you touched on just a second ago. So they're definitely wanting us to see something there, or at least be suspicious.
Yeah, it's now I'm thinking more about it as the episode's been in my brain for the last couple of days, percolating in the background. Yeah, like maybe is she maybe like half Scarran, half Kalish, and she just looks fully Kalish. So that's why she has the heat probe. I don't know. I guess we'll find out because they can't just drop that and just move on. Yeah, they have to explain it here in the next episode or three, right? So
Nah, they're just going to leave that one way out there, and we'll just be, who knows?
yeah, but yeah, so that's in the back of my head. Yeah, she's some kind of scare and spy or something, but I don't know. We'll see. Or modified Kalish, to do something, right?
Is this the first time we hear the term Kalish, or has that just been something that was thrown out? Like, I'm a Kalish, but nobody ever knew what that meant.
Yeah,
But Scorpius, I'm
I
sure.
think they mentioned it when she first showed up because that's how she did the change your center of gravity and walk up the walls and that kind of stuff. Because he's like, oh, that's what my species does or whatever. So, but no one dropped the fact that, oh yeah, and also by the way, yeah, they're servants of the Scarrans, which again would be kind of nice to know, and probably would they kept her on much shorter of a leash if they knew that.
Yeah, John would have tossed her out an
Yeah,
airlock.
exactly. Like, nope, bye. And yeah, let's jump into the next kind of major character here. Our old buddy Scorpy. He's got lots to do here too. So, and of course, what happened at the end. So, I'm going to guess, or I'm thinking that last episode or 2 episodes ago, when they did that blood brother ritual, like when Scorpius cut John's finger, or made John drink his blood or whatever, and vice versa, that's when he activated or resurrected Harvey in John's mind as insurance, probably that John wouldn't double cross him and not give him the wormhole technology. So, hey, pop in new improved Harvey. He just transmit the knowledge already. And hey, if John double crosses him, I don't care. I already got it. And who knows what else Harvey 2.0 can do, right? I mean, Harvey 1.0 could sometimes control John to some degree after a while. So maybe this version 2? I don't know. He just showed up and we only got like 1 minute of screen time with him. So who knows what else he's capable of yet. But overall, that was a great plot twist. I love it. We love Harvey. Welcome back. So
Yeah,
more fun scenes in John's head to come.
agreed. Double agreed, actually. I was wondering when they left Scorpy behind how they would convince the crew to go back and get him. I honestly figured it was going to be Sakozu, although that idea was knocked out really quickly.
Literally. Yeah.
Literally. But, it's our favorite neural ghost. And I think I'll throw in here, you may be right, or probably are, about the blood reactivation thing. But I also kind of wondered, because what we don't get is how long between episodes, right? Did they say like how long? Because obviously they just set up Crichton's 7 or whatever they are of them. There's some time passing. Because at first I was like, well, if that's the case, Harvey didn't have time to send Scorpius much data from John's brain, but I guess there's enough time passing where Scorpius now has it all, and we just have to assume that we have to get him, right?
Yeah, because I mean, like what the crew is, like the recap said, that the crew was not that interested in going back for Scorpius, except for Sokozu. And
Yeah.
now, unfortunately, next episode, John's will be like, and guess what, folks? We're going back. It'll be interesting. But even if Scorpius does know all that, he's still doing his best to get Aeryn back, even with Harvey 2.0 lurking around there somewhere. He's trying to bluff Janek that he's the Scarran spy, and that even kind of at the end, as things aren't working too well or trying to stall him longer, he drops that he knows everything Janek's up to, and says that, oh yeah, by the way, my Peacekeeper can give you John Crichton. Well, yeah, won't be so hard, right? That is John Crichton. But
Right.
And yeah, in the end, though, we get a nice little fight scene between a half Scarran and a full-blooded Scarran, and that goes about as well as you'd expect. But great fight scene. Like they had pretty good fight scenes in this episode. So that was cool.
Yeah, even the Chiana ones were good, which we'll touch on in a second. But yeah.
Yeah, and I was hoping she'd get away, and she was really holding her own until plot says she wasn't. But yeah, so now we have to go off next episode and somehow get Scorpy back before the Scarrans figure out that we don't need this Crichton guy or his fetus. We got all we need right here.
Yeah, and we always have a gripe or so on these episodes, even though they're usually our favorites. So I'll throw mine out here. The crew of the station, and everything. Let me back up. The Moya's crew is not unknown, right? To most of the bad guys, everybody's kind of they're a known entity in even in the tormented space. So how does no one recognize, if not Crichton, because he looks like a peacekeeper to them? Fine, all peacekeepers look the same, but Scorpius should be recognizable to them, I would think, considering how much of interest he was to the peacekeepers when he was with the Scarrans. So
yeah, I mean, you hit on my exact issue. I want to talk about too. I'm like, how do you not figure out that everybody you're seeing here on this Leviathan or nearby is the people that are like public enemy number one of both the Peacekeepers and the Scarrans? Right. I mean, granted, Scorpius was supposedly dead, end of last season or earlier this season, but from how they talked about it between Janek and whoever it was, one of his Jareds, that half-breed Scarrans don't seem that rare. But how about a half Scarran, half Savasian? Like, and wearing a coolant suit. Like, that's very distinct, right? I mean,
you would think so.
I would think. I mean, unless there's like thousands of them running around, then we just really see Scorpius. I don't know. I mean,
do they standard issue the cooling rods in their head and all that kind of stuff? Like that just seems like it should be more unique. But
yeah, and to your point, in addition to that, there's a Leviathan, a Aeryn, whatever Noranti is, a Luxon, and this half-breed Scarran guy, all in the same place. Yeah. I mean, unless John's Peacekeeper outfit fooled everybody that he wasn't wearing his black leathers, but it's like, look, dude, it's the guy that everybody wants, right there. Like, how do you not know this?
It's a good outfit, right? I mean, it fools everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get
like
it.
Superman's glasses.
Yeah, right.
Clark Kent glasses.
It's like, you do that, you change a part in your hair, and you're a different guy. Like, no one has. Like, how do you not know this is the most wanted dude in the whole galaxy?
Right.
But hey, plot. Or maybe they're so far out of the main traffic that they don't get all the most wanted posters. I don't know. I have no idea.
Not enough post offices for their pictures to be put up in or something.
Yeah. No little bounty hunter discs with the little holographic wanted stuff like we saw before.
Yeah, I just marked it down as it's like Men in Black. They flashy thing the entire galaxy.
Yeah. And we get more little interesting plot twists, kind of like when they drop earlier that Nabari are immune to Rygel's disease. So Janek decides, hey, let's transplant Aeryn's fetus into Chiana. I didn't see that coming. Yeah. Which is risky if Aeryn's already been exposed, because the fetus could be exposed too, unless if it got transplanted into Chiana's antibodies would help the fetus get cured if it was infected. I don't know. I mean, could be. And like we said, we knew Chiana would get captured, but she was put up a good job and some good fight scenes there. But unfortunately, she's wasn't able to get the job done and got captured.
Yeah, honestly, I was expecting that the fetus transfer to succeed, right? I mean, how weird would it be to finish up the season with Shanna carrying and delivering the baby after everything they've been through? Um,
Yeah, especially given
yeah,
but Shanna's attitude towards men and other things. Yes, have been like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I got a baby.
right. And and we talked a little bit about the Sebastian ability to delay the birth, but theoretically, Shanna may not have that. We don't know for sure, but as far as we know, she didn't. So that would almost immediately start the clock of we're going to have a kid on the show at some point. So
Yeah, and other sci-fi shows have done the transfer the baby from one host to another. So yeah, it would have been funny if they jump on that bandwagon.
yeah, especially if that the I'm not saying she was, but usually that lines up with an actress being pregnant or something, right? So well, we don't have enough time left to worry about that.
And so I think they did it in Deep Space Nine, right? Yeah, it was a Miles O'Brien's wife Keiko got pregnant, but they had something happen and they had to transfer the baby to Kira,
Yeah, that sounds right.
which wasn't too far removed from when this episode aired, a couple of years. So yeah, the plot was out there. Yeah, if they wanted to do it.
A space a space show with a similar plot? Nah.
Nah, never happens. See Deep Space Nine / Babylon Hive. Anyway, who stole what first? Argue amongst yourselves. Yeah.
Nobody argues on the internet, so it's okay.
Nah, no, everybody's just calm and wonderful, all polite. So yeah, so what do you think of their overall plan to rescue Aeryn? As plans go, or I should say, as plans of our Farscape crew go, this seemed much better than their other plans. Yeah, I'm sure there's little things that derail the plan because, of course, that has to be how you get drama. But I mean, it did come out pretty much like they planned it. Yeah, I mean, they pre-staged the Kozo on the station because it was a Kalish run. And, hey, we got Kalish. For some reason, they spun off Dargo and Noranti on Lola. I guess because Dargo could pilot, and she's kind of
Yeah, you had to have Dargo to fly the ship.
yeah,
That
and
was
she's kind of
the
not
logic.
you know at that point useful until now. But and John breaks out his little peacekeeper uniform from seasons ago. Scorpius, of course, because it's the Scarran affiliate station. Of course, is the obvious choice is the captain. And if it wasn't for Harvey 2.0, they'd be gone. Scorpius would be left alone to be tortured to death, and nobody other than Sokoza would give a damn. So
Yeah, I kind of figured this was it. Everything kind of lined up because it was Scorpius's plan, right? Not the rest of the crews like normal. So it was actually well thought out and came together. Basically, Scorpius is the Hannibal Smith of the team, is what I'm just figuring out here.
yep, he's 10 steps ahead of everybody else.
He just needs a cigar.
Yep. Well, hey, maybe Harvey 2.0 might have one next time.
Oh yeah, and gloves because Hannibal always wore gloves for some reason.
And like disguises. So, Scorpius always changing, Harvey's always changing his appearance. So, hey, there you go.
Well, he is, but he still has on the bodysuit underneath this
Yeah.
disguise, which
Right.
kind of makes it interesting.
And so in the end, we get the nice little gunfight because, you have to have some gunfights by John. And of course, you have to bring back the foreshadowing of don't have weapons around those DRDs on the station, otherwise you'll get blasted. Which, of course, the main Charid gets blasted by those DRDs with the Harkas back on because he's the only buddy holding a weapon. Because at that point, John's got Aeryn and he was the only one that had a gun. So, oops.
Yeah, failure to pay attention on that one.
Yep. Yeah. Hang electric on that, and they delivered. So there you go. And yeah, John and Aeryn get reunited again for like the 10th time in this series. And she realizes that she's not hallucinating and she's actually on Moya. And they get some quiet alone time until RV 2.0.
With one of the best creepy reintroductions, I guess, that I can remember.
Yeah, because as soon as we heard the music, I think first, like the organ, like the creepy organ music, and then they cut to black and white. I'm like, oh man, he's back. Like before I even saw him, I'm like, oh, he's back in his head. It's gotta be. Can't wait to have some more Harvey action. So that was some of the best scenes, I guess, for the last like couple seasons here. We'll see what they do with it in the next couple episodes.
Yep, interesting to see.
Speaking of which, well, first, anything else we didn't talk about before we jump into next time?
Yeah, I think we talked all the way through this. I mean, it was a good one, and we'll look forward to the next one and hopefully close out strong.
Yep. So speaking of which, next time will be season 4, episode 20. We're So Screwed, part 2, Hot to Kratotsi. So playing our usual guessing game of what's that mean? Well, first and foremost, it's an obvious play on words title, which they love to do. Hot to Trot, Hot to Kratotsi. So I don't know if they had these titles in mind when they're making up the name of Kratotsi, and just that was a way to play off some puns. I don't know, but if it was, good job on the long con on that one. So what's it gonna be about? Well, we already know, right? We gotta get Scorpius back from the Scarrans. If he knows what John knows, according to Army 2.0. So either gotta get to Kratotsi, which that's in the title. So I guess we're gonna get there finally, and have to try to either rescue or kill Scorpius so he can't spill the beans, right? And with Harvey 2.0 floating around, if he can control John, then it's probably going to only be a rescue, not killing Scorpius.
Yep. No, I completely agree. Harvey 2.0 is going to lead them to Katrotsky because he's got the psychic link, and they're going to have fun storming the castle.
Yep. And since their weapons don't really hurt the Scarrans, and a base full of Scarrans, that should be interesting. Unless they get bigger guns. We need bigger guns.
Lots of guns.
Yeah. All right. So that is your homework for next time. And we will see you then. Goodbye.
Goodbye.